Good afternoon, board members, Mr. Gonzalez, and district staff. The time is now 6:17 p.m. on this, the 8th day of March, 2022, and I call this special called meeting of the United Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Do we want to call roll call or to start with you, Mr.?
Ricardo Rodriguez, present.
Alisa Olivares present.
Frank Castillo present.
Javier Montemayor, present.
Juan Roberto Ramírez, present.
Ricardo Molina, present.
Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Agenda item 3, public comments. Mr. Gonzalez. Do we have
This time we have no public comments.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 4, items for individual consideration. Agenda item 4A, discussion and possible action regarding modifications to a resolution of the board for extension of district-provided emergency paid sick leave, EPSL, for eligible district employees. Do we have discussion or just move on to motion?
Motion to approve so we can get to the discussion part.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Discussion?
So I was one of the ones who supported this, bringing this item before the board again. I know we've had some discussion in the past with regards to how we're going to treat our employees who are vaccinated versus those who are not vaccinated. I know some of the board members have already indicated their sentiments on this, but I wanted at least to have a discussion after we had a slew of people come forward and state their positions in other board meetings. To begin with, I'm vaccinated, and I encourage people to become vaccinated. I think it's safe. But when it comes to employees, I have to say that, all our employees are required to perform according to their contracts. They're required to report to work. They're required to perform in the classroom. They don't control what students are vaccinated and what students are not vaccinated. From what I understand, whether you are vaccinated or you're not vaccinated, that doesn't mean you cannot contract COVID-19. It doesn't mean that you cannot spread COVID-19. It doesn't mean that you cannot become violently sick and pass away from COVID-19, even if you are vaccinated. I think that what I've understood from the experts is that if you are not vaccinated, you run a high risk of becoming sick or deadly sick and even passing away. And so, even still, that being the case, I think we should treat all employees, all United ISD employees, the same, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. The issue with tracking at the HR level has become, from what I understand, has become burdensome. Trying to keep track of those who are vaccinated and those who are not. We have issues with who has exposures versus contacts. And on that line, what are we going to do in August? If we are encouraging our employees we're going to give them the incentive, the 20-day incentive, because they're vaccinated today. What happens in August? What does vaccinated mean? Does that mean one shot? Does that mean 2 shots? Does that mean getting boosted? Is it going to be encouraged? I heard today it's going to be treated like the flu. Some people decide to get flu shots, some people don't. What's going to happen in the fall? How are we going to treat those employees in the fall? Does that 20-day rule end at the end of their contract in May?
My understanding, and I know the council is here, is the first 10 days for vaccination, the extra 10 days, which would be the 20, would be the ones that got the booster.
The resolution expires at the end of this calendar year, December 31st.
Right.
So the 20 days will apply to those.
December 31st, 2022.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, I've looked at other policies across the state. I've looked in San Antonio. I've looked at policies in McAllen. I think, from what I've read, all those policies are vaccination or vaccinated or unvaccinated free. They don't distinguish between who gets the extra days or not. And so, that being said, I think even the employees who are unvaccinated, they have made a personal choice. And they know the risks that they're running by not being vaccinated. So I think they should all be treated equally. They should be allowed to get extra days if they're going to contact, if they run the risk of contacting that virus at the campus.
How many days are they given, Javi?
They're only given what the state is allowing, which is the 5 days state days and 5 local days.
Well, I feel that, okay, and I agree with you in somewhat, but I mean, if you don't want to take the vaccine, and because I lost a loved one, to that, so it kind of hurts, but, I think if you don't want to get vaccinated, it's their choice.
Sure, that's,
But I just feel that we should just give them then what the state gives them. But if the district is giving extra on top of that, so they can get vaccinated, and to have, how can I say, more security and all, I'm not looking for that word, is for the betterment, to be more controlled. Because remember, our children are also involved here. And I think if we're gonna give extra on top of what the state is giving, let's just give them what the state is giving them for the ones that don't want to take it. And I think whoever's taking the booster shot and the rest of the shots and taking out all the shots that are there available for protection, we should give them what the district, United, is giving them, the extra.
That's the way it currently stands, right?
Yes, the first 10 days are if you have 2 shots, the Moderna or the Pfizer, and then for the second 10 days, I believe you need to be boosted, correct?
That's correct.
Am I correct that the second 10 days come with a second diagnosis of COVID? Or is it all in the first bout they have with COVID?
In practice, it's been all, it can all be within the first.
Okay,
But you have to have the booster in order to access the second 10 days.
and I understand that this issue has been discussed before, and it may not, pass muster with this board, but I think it needs to be said. I think all employees run that risk, whether you're boosted and vaccinated, boosted, or not. We still require them to all go to the campuses. We want to attract our employees, which is a major issue that we've had. Some people don't want to go, some people do want to go. If we want to keep those employees, even substitutes for that matter, if we want to bring those employees back, I believe we need to treat them all equally. They're all UISD employees. We've got a lot of good teachers who have chosen not to be vaccinated. We have some strong employees who have chosen not to be vaccinated. I don't agree with that decision, but I don't get to make that call for them. But at the end of the day, you can all still get COVID 2 or 3 times in a school year, even if you are vaccinated. And you could still die, even if you are vaccinated. So I don't think the rule that we have pushing the extra days in exchange for a vaccine necessarily meets what we're trying to accomplish. But that's the reason that's the discussion I wanted to have.
And for clarity, Ms. Oliveros, the district superintendent's office has worked with our office to come up with regulations as allowed by the resolution, and one of those regulations is the return of employees 5 days after exposure, so on day 6. So in theory, it'd be very difficult for all 20 days to be taken by that employee at once. They're supposed to return on day 6 after testing positive if they no longer have worsening symptoms and no longer have a fever without the use of fever-reducing medication. So that's been the regulation that's been implemented.
Which is a practice as closest to CDC guidelines.
Correct, and exactly. It's in line with TEA guidance, and it's in line with the Centers for Disease Control guidance.
And I agree with Mr. Rodriguez. It's a very sensitive issue, particularly to people who have lost a loved one during COVID. Fortunately, I have not. But at the same time, they were very touching stories that we heard at the last board meeting. And a lot of what all of them said made sense, made real sense, everything that Mr. Montemayor has said. The one thing for me that kind of put this on a legal plane for me was discrimination. And so I kind of looked at it from that angle, and I thought, you know what, everything they're saying is true. We know a lot more about COVID. We know that exactly what, I don't want to repeat what Mr. Montemayor said, but everything he said is true. And it coincided with everything they were saying. And then you tie in the word legal issues and discrimination. And I thought we need to fix this. This needs to be fixed.
Mr. Garcia, I agree with Mr. Montemayor and everybody else, but the district, more than 90% are vaccinated. So they're making the effort, to get vaccinated. And then, like they said, they have rights to wear masks, they have right to get vaccinated. But how about the kids? They're servicing, they're in the classroom and they're not vaccinated. The kids, the teachers that are vaccinated, they're working with those people. They have rights also. So it's the right of the district to pay the 10 days. They have right to wear masks, they have right to not get vaccinated, but how about the other people? Mostly the children, we serve the children first and then the employees. So we're looking at the employees, but how about the kids? They have 100% more right than anybody else. To me, that's my opinion. So I think, that if they didn't get vaccinated, they won't get paid for the days. If everybody's making 90%, over 90% of making the effort, what are we gonna say to those people? Okay, don't get vaccinated. We're still gonna pay you the 10 days. I think that's a motivation. And I repeat myself, for the kids, protect the kids first.
The only thing I can say, Mr. Molina, and I think you're right about that, and as you all look at that sign, what does it say there? For the children, we are United ISD. So that's the only thing I'm saying, and I think we're speaking for the children also.
Just wanted to clarify, at the time that the resolution was passed in January, we had the 10-day requirement that you could come back to work regardless of if you were positive or negative. That technically got you out of the exposure range, right, in terms of being able to, so that got changed to 5 days now. So in reality, somebody using all 20 days is probably highly unlikely. Plus, you'd have to have the booster status to be able to even qualify for the second 10 days.
So should we tweak it? Should we tweak it and reduce the number of days?
That's the question I think Mr. Montemayor has posed for y'all
I
tonight.
did want to have a comment
Yes.
on this.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I did want to see if we did review any kind of a medical physicians, anybody that could give us an opinion about this, because I know there's a lot of literature both ways of what can happen if you get vaccinated, what you can't. I know it's there. The people who came to spoke with us, I have to give them my respect because they were speaking from the heart, I thought. And I still feel that way. However, I believe that when we started this matter of vaccination, we were incentivizing our staff to get vaccinated. It was an incentive. And I believe if my numbers are correct, 95% have complied of our staff to get vaccinated in one form or another, if that's what I'm hearing. So there's a 5% group that doesn't believe in it, doesn't agree with it. My only thing that I would like to see, and this might be something the staff would have to bring back to us, is how can we encourage those that don't like to get vaccinated to actually do get vaccinated with some incentive. Give them time back that they lost perhaps. But if the idea is that all our children be protected, and I believe that as strongly as the rest of the board members, if we're going to protect our children, our staff, let's see if we cannot encourage those that don't believe in the vaccine to actually get it. And that's how I would approach it. That's why I'm approaching it in my mind. I want to see everybody vaccinated. And I think I want to stand at that.
Okay, yes, and Ms. Oliveros, to the point about discrimination, just to be clear for the record, there is a religious and a medical exemption.
Yes, that's what I was
where you
gonna
can
ask.
still qualify for this incentive, which is still currently an incentive that the
Okay.
district's offering.
I believe the key word is incentive.
Incentive, correct.
And that's
Mr. Castillo
what
mentioned
kicks
that.
you out of the whole
Discrimination.
discrimination
Correct,
issue.
it's an incentive.
And let me just clarify, I think we're all here for the children. And I think a lot of those, probably all those teachers that came up to talk to us that were not vaccinated are just as motivated to be there for their kids, and I think they want to be there for the kids. But here's the question, Mr. Garcia, what is the difference in a vaccinated person, which we have, let's say 95% of our district is vaccinated, as Mr. Castillo has indicated. Let's say a vaccinated teacher goes to her classroom. Can he or she spread the COVID-19 virus in that classroom?
I believe the science says yes.
Yes. So what is the difference between that individual teacher and a teacher who makes a personal decision not to get vaccinated? What is the difference with that, between those two individuals in a classroom? It's pretty much, they both have the same effect to our students. The only difference is this unvaccinated teacher may become violently ill and pass away, but they can both still spread it. So the encouragement, I get it, and I think we're all here for the kids. I don't want to make that one board member is not for the kids and the other ones are. We're all here for the kids. I think those teachers who are unvaccinated are also there for the kids. They're required to be there. They can both still contract it. They can both still spread it, both vaccinated and unvaccinated. So it becomes the same issue. Now, if we want to give it as an incentive, I voted for it the first time around. But after speaking to those teachers, after speaking to those employees, I felt it was important that we at least attempt to modify it again. So
Really
that's all.
quick, and I think this stat is important. We got it today, this
Correct.
afternoon. And basically, between August 16th to February 21st of 21-22, there was 1,880 positive intakes through human resources. Of those 1,880, which were positive, 1,678 were vaccinated, 202 are not. So that comes out to about 90% of the vaccinated people being positive intakes.
So, yeah, so
I think the incentive is the 10 days that they're getting like everybody else. That's an incentive. They're saying that they're not getting the days, but the other people are getting the vaccine, and they're getting the 10 days. They're not getting the 10 days because they're not getting the vaccine. So if they get the vaccine, that's an incentive for them to get the 10 days. And plus, like I repeat, keep the kids safe and the people they work also.
If they get the vaccine or if they
That's an
qualify
incentive.
for
The
a medical or religious
exemption.
exemption.
So,
Correct.
I mean, I wish I had known that, and I'm sorry that I didn't know that when we had the group of people before us, because one individual spoke about not being able to take the vaccine for a medical cause. So if she had filled out the form claiming a medical exemption, she would have qualified for the incentive.
It's very likely, without knowing
Yeah,
more, it's
so
likely.
we should have brought that up, for one, and we didn't, but I'm curious why she wouldn't do that. But maybe they didn't know they could claim an exemption, I don't know. And if you're adamant about something being wrong with vaccine and you're just totally against it, I guess they could claim a religious exemption, because their spirit doesn't agree with it. So,
Possible.
in essence, everybody qualifies for this incentive if they just fill out the exemption form. It's a matter of doing that. Am I correct or not?
In theory,
Yeah.
that's correct. Yes.
So, then,
But they would have to claim religious, and I don't know, a lot
Well,
of
I
people would
mean,
want to use it or
religion
not.
is a very-
Right, so,
or medical.
Religious, medical.
I mean, religion is, I'm spiritual and my spirit doesn't.
well, that's what I'm
agree
saying, they
with
would
this,
have to
yeah.
explain that.
But I don't think we scrutinize the exemptions, do we?
It's very difficult, legally speaking, to question a sincerely held religious belief under the current Fifth Circuit case law.
Yeah. So basically, everybody qualifies for this incentive.
Yes.
So then, why are we discussing this right now?
For clarification.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I didn't know that. I'm admitting that I did not know that, but,
Well, I think it's also to Mr. Montemayor's point of maybe looking towards the future.
Well,
Yes.
that needs to be clarified,
Correct.
because what you have right now as far as vaccinations, the definition of vaccination is not very clear for going into, I even think even going into August and after December 31st. What is the requirement going to be for those individuals to qualify, if we're going to extend it after December 31st, what's going to be the issue?
Mr. Garcia, who's the eligible district employees?
Eligible district employees are those that are full-time and have received at least 2 doses of the vaccine or the J&J 1 dose. And then for the 20 days, the second 10 days, it's having received the booster. But you're also considered eligible if you have a valid religious or medical exemption. But, I mean, I also want to point out, I don't think that it was mentioned at the public comment when the employees spoke, but there is FDA approved. I believe one of the vaccines is FDA approved fully, not under emergency use authorization anymore.
That is correct. Pfizer is.
So the Pfizer's FDA approved, so it's,
I think we've aired it out enough.
So, Mr. Montalbano, for the record, will you clarify what the modification is that you want in the motion?
I was going to ask that all district employees be put on the same level, as far as, given the incentive, or given the days with no mention of an incentive, and just, be given extra local days by the district. I think that's what we're doing here. We gave local 20 days at the local level, based on, as an incentive. So it's actually 10, they're 5 days plus 15 more?
10 plus 10.
10 plus 10, yeah, so.
Okay, they're 10 state.
But they correct, there's, in the regulation, under the superintendent's authority with the resolution is that they are supposed to return after 5 days.
Right, return after 5 days.
Unless they have worsening symptoms or fever without fever-reducing medication.
My modification was just to make it equal across the board, not as an incentive, just giving the local days. Assuming they were to contract.
So just to clarify, basically vaccinated, unvaccinated, just get rid of that part of the resolution?
Exactly. That's the way I've seen other resolutions, and we have read other resolutions across other districts. They don't designate vaccinated versus unvaccinated. You get extra days, because we assume that they're at a higher risk, everyone's at a higher risk for contracting the virus at the campus because they're all coming back in. So most districts were just extending those days at the local level.
And it would still be 20 days?
Either by policy, they were revising the policy, which I think you and I discussed, versus what we did. Just
Correct, they were revising DEC local.
Right.
As opposed to a resolution. But just to clarify also, it'd be the 20 days with no requirement for vaccine.
20 days, no booster, no nothing, just 20 days.
Well, I would make a different motion. I would make a motion just to leave it the way it is. And for those employees that are still sitting down and waiting, for them to come back and see what they need. They need to come back and fill out whatever they need to fill out. Because maybe they have exemptions.
Okay, so
Maybe they qualify for that.
Mr. Rodriguez, is your motion to keep the current resolution as is?
As is.
And reach out to those who are not receiving the benefit so that they have an opportunity to comply with the exemption form?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. and I
Second,
wanna-
I'd like to second that.
Okay, we
Let
have
me
a
just
second.
clarify, just to make sure that the board is fully aware. There is a requirement for clergy person or individuals to sign off on the form. We may have to look at that from a legal perspective, that's going to be a requirement. Or a medical exemption, you would need a licensed U.S. doctor to also sign off on it. So it's not simply somebody saying, hey, I believe in this, has to be some
Not spiritual.
confirmative
Right.
item. But we may have to look at that from a legal perspective, but we can actually require that, so.
I'd like to second the motion.
Really quickly, I
We're
just-
still in discussion, are we not?
No,
Oh,
no,
really
we have
quick.
a
Yeah, we're on a
motion,
second
a second,
motion.
so
Wait,
now we're in
real
discussion.
quick, we didn't even get Mr. Montemayor's motion to get an opportunity for a second.
Okay, I thought we were.
It was a second.
Yeah,
Mr.
we had a-
Ramirez
we had a
seconded.
Oh, he
motion,
seconded,
yeah.
And we had
So we got
discussion.
Discussion.
That's a counter
and we had
motion.
a counter motion and a second.
I did not hear Mr. Ramirez.
So now we can vote on Rick's.
Yes, yes, sir.
So, any further discussion, Mr.
Yes,
Castillo?
I just wanted to mention, in view of Mr. Rodriguez's comments, I would want to know, maybe for the board purposes, what message are we saying to those that did utilize the incentive to, when we asked them to get vaccinated, they came and willingly did it. And I worry about that message, so I think that we need to be consistent, that we want to encourage vaccinations. Thank you.
For the record, I agree with vaccinations as well, but I also believe in parity, and I believe that, statistically and scientifically, where we are right now, we
Yeah.
know that a vaccinated person can spread the disease and can get sick from the disease and can die of the disease.
I'd like to second Mr.
We have a
Rodriguez's
motion and a
motion.
second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those against? Aye. So motion passes. I didn't get the count.
I think it's,
I believe it was
I think
3-3.
it's a tie.
It's a tie. So
Yeah.
tie.
So it
Okay,
dies.
so then we go back to the first motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Mr. Montalena, do you want to clarify your motion?
Please again.
I almost regret bringing this back up. It was just to make a point, you know, it just really was, but I, after all these years of battling with this, you know, I was always of the opinion that vaccinations was the key, but I've learned differently. And I think now that I've read and I've heard all the science, and I believe that we should all treat our employees all equally, whether vaccinated or unvaccinated, and they should all be receiving the same amount of days as those who are vaccinated. The unvaccinated should receive the same amount of days as those who are vaccinated. So my motion is that we
Open it up.
extend the emergency paid sick leave for all district employees.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Can you count for me, Mr.?
This is 3.
Okay, all those against?
Aye.
So tie.
3, so tie. No motion, no action. Okay, so do we have
It remains the
any
same,
other
right?
motion or we
No,
move on?
motion to adjourn. I think it's-
Yeah, it just stays the same.
One more item, the clean air.
What I wanted
Okay,
to,
so- Yeah, so agenda
I want from
item
Clean Air,
4B,
yeah.
discussion and action regarding
Open
Clean
the
Air
door.
Laredo Coalition. Okay.
So on this one, y'all want to,
Well, I know for a fact that the last special call meeting, the Clean Air Coalition came in and gave some public comments, and as we're all aware, they've been traveling to the different public entities within the city, getting different levels of support. And I know Jaime Garcia has been in contact with their coalition, and it seems like a lot of the public entities are kind of assigning a board member or an administrator to kind of join the coalition and be a liaison between, you know, the coalition and the district. So that's kind of where we're at there.
and this is true, and this is regarding the, I guess, the radioactive,
Midwest.
the Midwest plant that's in the west side of town. And they're almost asking that we at some point consider even shutting down some of our schools in that area and addressing those concerns over there. And we have different entities involved, some more of our governmental entities, the city, the county, other school districts perhaps are all getting on board. I've had discussions with some of them, and they were here last week. I think that we should appoint, I think we should clarify what the district's position should be in that coalition, and I think we should have at least one, maybe two board members participate in that, just, you know, because we do have an interest in that area. And apparently this Midwest plant is emanating particles into the air that are causing cancer. And so I think at least one or two, maybe even Mr. Ramirez, it's his
I was
area,
thinking Mr. Ramirez,
it's his area over there, and so,
Correct, so I think if there's action or requested or desired to appoint board members to the coalition, you could probably do it the same way you appoint officers, just the motion would be to appoint one or a slate and name them, and then there would be a vote taken.
I don't know.
But it has to be 3 or less, correct, 3 or less, 3 or less.
Three, Mr. Montemayor,
I would like to
myself,
be a part of the
myself,
coalition.
and Mr. Ramirez, as it pertains to our district. And as I saw the map, the prevailing winds, it kind of goes right over
I
District
think it's
7
kind
as
of,
well.
it's even extending because in where I live, we've already called for air quality tests because myself have smelled certain chemicals in the air. So I think it's proliferating across the city, not just in that area. So we called the state and asked them to do some air quality samples where I live. So-
How many did they request of?
Well, it would have to be 3 or less, because if four or more attend, it's basically a quorum.
I would make a motion to put Mr. Ramirez, Mr. Castillo, and Alisa.
Mr. Montemayor?
second.
Yeah, and I'd like to make if I can make a comment, you know, when they came over and they said, we turn a blind eye, like the United is the only entity in Laredo, you know, that I think personally, we don't have anything to do with everything that's on Mine Road by the school. We didn't get permission to build it. We're not in that, where everything's happening over the clean air, where all that pollution is coming out of, near to the school. The city gave me permission to build it. So now the lady that came over, she said, United's turning a blind eye. We're not turning a blind eye. We just know what are we gonna do? What can we do? If the city and the federal government can't shut them down or take care of the pollution, how is United gonna take care of that? We're not turning a blind eye. We're just.
I agree with that.
Just trying to see what they're gonna do, the federal government.
I think the city needs
Or
to
the
take
local
a
government.
lead role in,
Where's Dr. Trevino at?
Yeah.
How come he doesn't go and shut that thing off?
yeah, I think the city needs to take a lead role in modifying their ordinances and maybe even making them retroactive to Midwest, at Midwest plant. And I think everybody follows suit after that. But
So we have a motion, a second. I'd like to, if I could add to Mr. Rodriguez's motion and have maybe an alternate to the
Yeah,
committee
absolutely.
with Mr.
Pues, Javier.
Montemayor. Okay.
That's fine.
So that's a modification of Mr. Rodriguez's motion?
Yes.
Okay.
So do I need a first and a second?
There's a motion on the floor, right?
there's a motion.
There's a motion on the floor, we have the motion
Second. I'd like to
amended, so
take-
we can motion second and vote on it.
So he agreed to add
I agree
that?
to it, so.
Oh, we're good. We're
So
good.
we don't have
Okay,
to make another motion.
Okay, so motion and second, all those in favor, please.
Can you read the motion?
All right. Just clarify it. I think I believe Mr. Rodriguez's motion as modified is to
Yes.
appoint Ms. Oliveros,
Montemayor.
Mr. Castillo, Mr. Ramirez, and Mr. Montemayor as an alternate
Yes.
to the Clean Air Laredo Coalition on behalf of United ISD.
We had a motion, Mr. Rodriguez. The second, we had
Mr. Montemayor.
Yeah,
Mr.
second.
Montemayor. Motion and second, all those in favor, please signify by
Aye.
saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any against? Motion passes. Thank you.
Motion
And
to
I
adjourn.
think do we have a motion to adjourn? Adjourn?
Yes.
All right, thank you.